Good day, learners! Welcome to Arts 9, Module 2 about different Western classical plays and operas. Today's objectives are 1. Identifies the elements and principles of arts manifested in Western classical plays and operas. 2. Defines what makes some selected Western classical plays and operas visually unique. And 3. Designs the visual elements and components of selected Western classical theater plays and operas. Let's start this lesson with the pretest. Match the theater and opera titles to the appropriate pictures below. You have 5 seconds to think of the correct answer. Let's start. Let us know if your answers are correct. First, the first picture shows the Oedipus Rex. The second is Romeo and Juliet. And the third is called Carmen. Now, let's have a recap activity. Match column A to the correct answers in column B. Write the letter of the correct answer in the space provided. You are given 5 seconds to think of the correct answer. Let's check. 1. Romantic period, theater, letter F, melodrama and operas. 2. Medieval theater, C, puppeteers, jugglers, and singers. 3. Greek theater, letter E, tragedy, comedy, and satire. 4. Roman theater, D, combats and blood sports. 5. Renaissance theater, letter B, morality plays. 6. Baroque theater, letter G, use of technology. 7. Neoclassical theater, letter A, grandiosity, highly elaborate. Now let's start our discussion about different Western classical plays and opera. 1. Oedipus Rex, meaning, in Latin, Oedipus the king, and in Greek, Oedipus Tyrannos, play by Sophocles, performed sometimes between 430 and 426 BCE, that marks the summit of classical Greek drama's formal achievement, known for its tight construction, mounting tension, and perfect use of the dramatic devices of recognition and discovery. It examines the story of Oedipus, who, in attempting to flee from his fate, rushes headlong to meet it. Sophocles is an ancient Greek tragedian. His contemporary playwrights were Aeschylus and Euripides. He wrote 123 plays, but only 7 have survived in complete form. Ajax, Antigone, The Women of Trachis, Oedipus the King, Electra, Philoctetes, and Oedipus at Colonus. Let's go over the theatrical elements of Oedipus Rex. So, we have Oedipus and Creon as main characters. Oedipus is the king of Thebes. He represented with the gold mask with exaggerated deep empty eye sockets. Creon is the brother-in-law of Oedipus. He has a mad or angry facial expression and he wears a crown. Eurydice, Creon's wife. Apollo, god or oracle of Delphi. King Laius, father of Oedipus. Jocasta is the wife of Laius and the mother of Oedipus. The expression of her mask depends on the scene of the play. Antigone and Ismene, the daughters of Oedipus. Genre, tragedy. Mask, The use of masked acts to advance the universality of the themes and the dramatic impact of the events and to keep the audience from being distracted by the actual physical attributes of the actors. For gestures and movements, facial expression was of no importance to Greek actors since they were always masked. Music. Sophocles also used the chorus at the beginning of the play to help tell the audience the given circumstances of the play. Choruses did a lot of lamenting of terrible events. Costumes. Men wore loose floor-length poncho with pleated shoulder while females wore draped robes. Staging. The Parthenon's facade has the design of Ionic order columns with cornices and moldings on the top, elevated for five-step rises at the center, and a platform in front near the audience. Let's now discuss the elements and principles of the Greek play. Actors. Three actors in tragedy. Festivals, Lenaea and Genetia. Voice, the delivery is declamatory. Facial expression. Facial expression is not important because of the mask they wear. Movements. Conventionalized, stylized, or symbolic gestures like those in mimetic dance. Music. The musical accompaniment for drama is played on the flute. Venue. Auditorium on the slope of Acropolis, which is panoramic landscape. Audience. The spectators standing or seated on the slope of Acropolis could express their opinion noisily. The high points of each festival is the awarding of prizes. Next, let's talk about Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare early in his career about two young star-crossed lovers whose deaths ultimately reconcile their feuding families. It was among Shakespeare's most popular plays during his lifetime and, along with Hamlet, is one of his most frequently performed plays. Today, the title characters are regarded as archetypal young lovers. Romeo and Juliet belongs to a tradition of tragic romances stretching back to antiquity. William Shakespeare was born and brought up in Stratford-upon-Avon. At the age of 18, he married Anne Hathaway, with whom he had three children, Susanna and twins Hamlet and Judith. He was an English poet and playwright, widely known as the greatest writer in English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. He's been known also as the Bard of Avon. His existing works consist of about 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and two long narrative poems. Romeo and Juliet is Shakespeare's most famous tragedy and one of the world's most enduring love stories. Here are some of the comedies that William Shakespeare wrote during his early period. A Midsummer Night's Dream, Merchant of Venice, Much Ado About Nothing, As You Like It, Twelfth Night, Titus Andronicus, The Comedy of Errors, The Taming of the Shrew, The Two Gentlemen of Verona. He also authored the famous tragedies and the tragicomedies entitled Hamlet, King Lear, and Othello. Here are the theatrical elements for Romeo and Juliet. Staging. The stage was divided into three levels: a main stage area with doors at the rear and a curtained area at the back for discovery scenes, an upper canopied area called Heaven for balcony scenes, and an area under the stage called Hell, which could be accessed through a trap door in the stage. There is no curtain in the front of stage, which meant that the scenes had to flow into each other, and dead bodies had to be dragged off, but there is a dressing rooms located behind the stage. Props. Props in display may vary depending on the scene or act. Here are the characters in Romeo and Juliet. Montague's family. Romeo, sole heir to the Montague fortune. Lord Montague, Romeo's father. Lady Montague, Romeo's mother. Benvolio, Romeo's cousin. Balthazar, Romeo's faithful servant. Abraham, Montague's servant. Capulet's family. Juliet, the sole heir to Capulet fortune. Lord Capulet, Juliet's father. Lady Capulet, Juliet's mother. Tybalt, Juliet's cousin. The nurse, Juliet's faithful nurse. Peter, Capulet's servant. Samson, Capulet's servant. Other characters: Friar Lawrence, friend and advisor to Romeo and Juliet. Mercutio, Romeo's best friend. Prince Escalus, Prince of Verona. Paris loves Juliet. Rosaline, Romeo's first love. Friar Jan, apothecary. Costumes. The costumes are based on the style and design of dresses worn during the Renaissance period. Costume for king, costume for queen, costume for prince, costume for princess, the male servant, female servant, knight, and the friar. Now let's move on and discuss Carmen from the Romantic period. The opera Carmen is one of the world's most popular operas. It was first performed at the Opéra Comique in Paris in France on March 3, 1875. The opera was in 4 acts with music written by French composer Georges Bizet. The libretto, written by Henri Meillac and Ludovic Halévy, was based on a novel of the same title by Prosper Mérimée. Georges Bizet was a French composer and pianist of the Romantic era. He is best known for his opera Carmen. Georges Bizet's first symphony was the Symphony in C major. It seems that Bizet completely forgot about it until 1935, when in the archives of the Conservatory Library the piece was discovered. When it was performed, it was immediately hailed as a junior masterwork and became one of the greatest performances during the Romantic period. It was a delightful work of a 17-year-old boy. Here are some of the stage works of Georges Bizet: Carmen, Opera 1875, L'Arlésienne, Musique des Cygnes, 1872, Jamily, 1-act opera, 1872, no opera by Fromental Halévy finished by Bizet, 1869, Ivan IV, Grand Opera, unfinished, La Jolie Fille de Perth, Opera, 1867, and Les Prêcheurs de Perles, Opera, 1863. Main characters of Carmen. Carmen, soprano. Frasquita, mezzo-soprano. Don Jose, tenor. Mercedes, mezzo-soprano. El Dancaro, baritone. Micaela, soprano. El Remendado, tenor. Morales, bass. Escamillo, baritone. Zuniga, bass. Staging. The story is set in Seville, Spain, and the surrounding hills in 1820. The opera, written in the genre of opera comic with musical numbers separated by dialogue, tells story of the downfall of Don Jose, a naive soldier who is seduced by the charms of the flaming gypsy Carmen. The opera is a fascinating drama of love and jealousy, filled with famously alluring melodies and captivating dancing. Here is the costume for Carmen's character and the Spaniard soldier. We are now done with discussion. Let's have an activity. This activity is called the Western Classical Theater Exploration. Below are several plays that you must research on. Watch the plays Oedipus Rex, Romeo and Juliet, and the opera Carmen. Analyze each theatrical form using the elements of theater arts. Write your answers in the chart below. For your wrapped up activity, I have prepared a crossword puzzle. Look for the theater and opera words inside this puzzle and cross the words related to our lesson. Good luck! Now, let's ponder on this and answer this question. What life lessons could we get from the theaters and opera? So before we end this lesson, let's have a post test. Choose the letter with the correct answer. 1. This opera is one of the world's most famous opera that tells a story of a gypsy and a soldier. A. Carmen, B. Romeo and Juliet, C. Oedipus Rex, and D. Zuniga. The correct answer is A. Carmen. 2. He is an English poet also known as the Bard of Avon. A. George Bizet, B. Sophocles, C. William Shakespeare, D. Francisco Balagtas. The correct answer is C. William Shakespeare. 3. A famous tragedy story and is one of the world's most enduring love story. A. Carmen, B. Romeo and Juliet, C. Oedipus Rex, and D. Zuniga. The correct answer is Romeo and Juliet. 4. He is an ancient Greek tragedian. A. George Bizet, B. Sophocles, C. William Shakespeare, D. Francisco Balagtas. The correct answer is B. Sophocles. 5. A story about the king of Thebes. A. Carmen, B. Romeo and Juliet, C. Oedipus Rex, D. Zuniga. The correct answer is C. Oedipus Rex. So that's all for today's lesson. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot from this lesson. Goodbye!